The BBC presents The Sign of Four, a Sherlock Holmes story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, adapted for radio by Felix Felton. The story is told by Sherlock Holmes' friend and assistant, Dr. Watson. The final episode, The Strange Story of Johnathon Small.
Good day to you. After our capture of the steam launch Aurora, we cruised slowly upstream. In the cabin was the heavy iron box of the Agra treasure, and opposite the man, Johnathon Small, who had waited so long to gain it. He was a sunburned, reckless-eyed fellow of 50 or thereabouts, and sat with his handcuffed hands on his lap, looking with keen, twinkling eyes at the box, which had been the cause of his ill-doings. Holmes lit a cigar.
Well, Johnathon Small, I'm sorry it has come to this.
So am I, sir. But I give you my word on the book, I never raised a hand against Mr. Sholto.
That was the work of your accomplice with his blowpipe.
Yes, sir. I only sent him up to let down the rope. When he found Mr. Sholto there, that little hellhound fired one of his cursed darts into him. The truth is, I hoped to find the room empty. I knew the habits of the house pretty well, and I thought Mr. Sholto would be downstairs having his supper.
Oh, that was it. Well, you better have a tot of whiskey. You must be pretty wet after that leap in the river.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Well, Small, you're under the charge of Mr. Athelney Jones of Scotland Yard now, and he's going to bring you up to my rooms.
Why is he doing that, sir?
Because if you make a clean breast of it, I may be of use to you. I think I can prove that the poison acts so quickly that the man was dead before you ever reached the room.
That he was, sir. I climbed in through the window, and there was Mr. Sholto with his head slumped on his shoulder. I'd have half killed little Tonga for it if he hadn't scrambled off. I gave him a taste of the rope afterwards.
Oh, quite a family party.
Hello, Jones.
I think I'll have a pull at that flask.
By all means.
Oh, I must say, Holmes, you cut it rather fine. It was all we could do to overhaul her.
All's well that ends well. I certainly didn't know that the Aurora was such a clipper.
Smith says that if he'd had another man to help him, we'd never have caught him. He swears he knew nothing about the Norwood business.
Neither he did. I chose his launch because I heard she was one of the fastest on the river. We told him nothing, but we paid him well.
Where was he taking you?
To Gravesend. We was to board the Esmeralda outward bound for the Brazils.
Well, if he has done no wrong, we'll see no wrong comes to him.
We must be approaching Vauxhall Bridge, Jones. You remember your promise?
Oh, yes. We'll land Dr. Watson with the treasure, and he shall take it to Mrs. Forrester's house to show to Miss Mary Morstan.
I'm much obliged.
It's most irregular, but an agreement's an agreement. But, Doctor, you won't mind if I send an inspector along with you, will you? All right?
Not at all. I'll show her the treasure and come straight back to Baker Street.
By the way, my man, where's the key to this box? Well?
At the bottom of the river.
Now, why do you want to cause unnecessary trouble? You'll have to break it open, Doctor.
Very well.
We'll wait for you at your rooms, then. And when we've heard what this man has to say, we'll take him on to the station.
They landed me at Vauxhall, and I set off in a cab, with my heavy iron box and a bluff, genial inspector as my companion. I talked lightly, but in my heart I thought ruefully of the irony of my mission. The treasure I was taking to Mary Morstan would make her one of the richest young ladies in England, and out of reach forever of the poor ex-army doctor who loved her so dearly. A quarter of an hour's drive brought us to the house. She was seated by the open window, and as I entered the room, she sprang to her feet with a bright flush of surprise.
Doctor, I heard a cab drive up. I thought Mrs. Forrester had come back early. I never dreamed it might be you. What news have you brought me?
I've brought you something worth all the news in the world. I've brought you a fortune.
You mean that's the treasure?
Yes, the great Agra treasure. Half of it's yours and half the dear Sholto's. You'll have a couple of 100,000 each, at least. Isn't it wonderful?
I owe it to you.
No, not to me. To Sherlock Holmes. He caught our man at the very last moment, making away with it down the Thames. And then Holmes persuaded the police to let me bring it here so that you could be the first to see it.
It was a kind thought, indeed. What a beautiful box it is. It's Indian work, I suppose.
Yes, Benares metalwork.
It's so heavy. Oh, the box alone must be worth a great deal. Have you the key?
I'm afraid Jonathan Small threw it into the Thames.
Oh.
I shall have to borrow Mrs. Forrester's poker. I ought to be able to force that hasp in the front with it. A pity to spoil it, really. It's such beautiful work. Small's given us no option, though. It's coming, I think. Now, we'll soon see.
It's empty.
Empty? I simply can't believe it.
Well, there we are. The treasure's lost.
Oh, thank God.
Why do you say that?
Because it means that now you are within my reach again. I love you, Mary, as truly as a man ever loved a woman. This treasure, these riches, sealed my lips. Now they are gone, and I can tell you at last how I love you. That is why I said, thank God.
Then I say, thank God, too.
A very patient man was that inspector in the cab. It was a weary time before I rejoined him. And when I showed him the empty box, his face clouded over.
Ah. Well, there goes the reward. No money, no pay.
Oh, surely.
Yeah, that's how it is, sir. Tonight's work would have been worth $1 each to Sam Brown and me if the treasure had been there.
Mr. Sholto's a rich man. He'll see you're rewarded.
It's a bad job all the same. And so Mr. Athelney Jones will think.
Well, we'd better hurry along and break the news to him. Driver?
Yes, sir.
221B Baker Street.
Quick as you like, sir.
When we reached Baker Street, Holmes, Athelney Jones, and their prisoner had only just arrived, having changed their plans so far as to report at the station on the way. My companion lounged in his armchair with his usual listless expression, and Small sat stolidly opposite him, with his wooden leg cocked over his sound one. As I exhibited the empty box, he leaned back in his chair with a look of exultation.
Yes, I've put the treasure where you'll never lay hand on it. If I can't have the loot, I'll take darn good care no one else does.
Tell us where it is at once.
You'll find the treasure where the key is and where little Tonga is. When I saw your launch was going to catch us, I put it away in a safe place. Oh, there are no reprieves for you on this journey.
You are deceiving us, Small. If you had wanted to throw the treasure in the Thames, you'd have done it, box and all.
Oh, no. The man that's clever enough to hunt me down is clever enough to pick an iron box in the bottom of the river. Now they're scattered over 5 miles or so, you may find it a harder job.
This is a very serious matter, Small. If you would help justice instead of thwarting it, I might have...
This loot belongs to me and 3 other men. Is it justice to give it up to people who never earned it? Look how I've earned it. 20 long years in chains, working in a fever-ridden swamp, bitten by mosquitoes, racked with ague. Oh, I tell you, I'd rather have one of Tonga's darts in my side than live to see another man enjoying the money that's mine.
Now, wait a minute. You're forgetting that we know nothing of all this.
And why should I tell you, Mr. Holmes?
Because then we shall know how much justice you may have had on your side.
Oh, well, sir, you've been very fair-spoken to me. If you want the story, I won't hold it back. Could you put a glass beside me here so that I can get my hands to it if I'm dry?
By all means.
Now, don't get up, Holmes. I'll do it.
Oh, thank you, sir. Well, I'm a Worcestershire man, born near Pershore. Guess how you'd find a heap of Smalls living there now if you care to look. I often thought of taking a look round there, but I doubt if my family would have been very glad to see me.
What took you abroad, then? The army?
Yes, usual story. Got a mess over a girl, took the Queen's shilling, went out with the 3rd Buffs to India. Wouldn't do much soldiering, though. I just got past the goose step when I was fool enough to go swimming in the Ganges and met a crocodile.
Ah, so that's what happened to your leg.
Yes, that's right, sir. Nipped it off as clean as a surgeon could have done it. I was 5 months in hospital, and when at last I limped out, it was to find myself invalided out of the army and unfitted for any active occupation. Wasn't 20 then, and pretty well down on my luck, as you can imagine. So I got a job with an indigo planter, a man named Abel White, who wanted an overseer to look after his coolies. He happened to be a friend of our colonel's.
Well, that was lucky enough.
Yes. But I was never in luck's way long. Suddenly, without a note of warning, the great mutiny broke on us.
You went through that?
Oh, I did indeed, sir. We was at a place called Matra. That's on the border of the northwest provinces. Night after night, the old sky was alight with the burning bungalows. Mr. Abel White had it in his head that the old thing would blow over.
Had he indeed?
Yes, he was a very obstinate man, sir. There he sat on his veranda drinking whiskey pegs with the old country in a blaze about him. And then, of course, one fine day, the crash came. I was riding back from one of the plantations, and I saw the flames coming up through the roof of the bungalow, and hundreds of madmen dancing and howling around it. Some of them saw me, and a couple of bullets came whizzing past my head. I knew it was too late to do any good, so I broke away across the paddy fields and made for the fort at Agra. The 3rd Bengal Fusiliers was there. The river washes along the front of it, but we had to guard the sides and the back. I was put on night watch with 2 Sikh troopers, tall, fierce-looking chaps, both old fighting men. They was called Mohammed Singh and Abdullah Khan.
Ah, 2 of your brotherhood of 4.
Yes, that's right, sir. But we hadn't formed any brotherhood yet. They was silent fellas, and for the first 2 nights of our watch, I couldn't get nothing out of them. The 3rd night, about 2 in the morning, they still wouldn't talk, so I took out my pipe, laid down my musket to strike a match. And the next moment, they was on me.
Don't move, or I put this knife in your throat.
Now, what's this all about?
Don't shout. Keep quiet and listen to me.
Well, what do you want, then?
Sahib, you must be either with us now, or you must be silenced forever. Which is it to be? That or life? We can only give you 3 minutes to decide. All must be done before the rounds come again.
What? How can I decide? You've not told me what you want of me. If it's anything against the safety of the fort, I'll have no truck with it. You can drive home your knife and have done with it.
It is nothing against the fort. We are only asking you to be rich. If you will be one of us this night, we swear by the naked knife and the 3-fold oath that a quarter of the treasure shall be yours.
What treasure?
Will you swear by the bones of your father, by the honor of your mother, and by the cross of your faith, to raise no hand or to speak no word against us, either now or afterwards?
I'll swear. It's not against the safety of the fort.
Then my comrade and I will swear that you shall have a quarter of the treasure, which shall be equally dividing between the 4 of us.
The 4?
Yes. Dost Akbar must have his share. Mohammed Singh,
Acha.
go and stand beyond the gate and give notice when the travelers are arriving.
Go, Acha.
I will tell you the whole story while we are waiting for them.
Well?
There is a Raja in the northern province who has much wealth. When the troubles broke out, he would be friends both with the lion and the tiger. So he kept his gold and silver in the vaults of his palace. But his precious stones and pearls he is putting in an old iron box and sent by a trusty servant who in the guise of a man should take it to this fort to lie here till the land is at peace. Thus, if the rebels won, he would have his money. But if they lost, and if they went to the British, he would still have his jewels. Then he threw himself into the cause of the rebels, by which, mark you, Sahib, his property becomes the due of those who have been true to their salt.
Then Dost Akbar is the servant who's to bring the treasure here?
No, the servant is named Ahmed. Dost Akbar is my foster brother, who is leading him to this gate. The place is lonely. No one will know it is coming.
Then you mean to kill?
Yes, Sahib. The world shall know Ahmed no more. But the treasure will be dividing amongst us. What do you say?
But it's cold murder.
Consider, Sahib. If the man is taken by the commandant, he will be hung or shot, and his jewels taken by the government. They will be as well with us as in the company's coffers. Say again, Sahib, are you with us, or must we look upon you as an enemy?
I'm with you.
It is well.
Does your brother know what you mean to do?
The plan is his. He has devised it.
Shh. Here they are.
Yes. We will challenge him, Sahib, as usual. Give him no cause for fear. Send us in with him, and we shall do the rest.
Who goes there?
Friends.
Advance, friends.
Sahib, your protection for the unhappy merchant Ahmed. I have traveled across Rajputana to seek the shelter of the fort of Agra. It is a blessed night when I am once more in safety, I and my poor possessions.
What you got in that bundle?
Only an old iron box with 1 or 2 family matters of no value except to myself. But I am not a beggar. I shall reward you, Sahib, and your governor if you will give me shelter.
All right. Take him to the main guard.
This way.
Gentlemen, I watched the little Ahmed move off with the 2 tall Sikhs, Abdullah Khan and Mahmud Singh on either side of him. And the third, Dost Akbar, walking behind. Suddenly, the measured tramp of their feet ceased. There was a scuffle and the sound of blows. And to my honor, a rush of footsteps in my direction. It was the little man, running like the wind. Behind him, a great black-bearded Sikh, knife in hand. He was gaining on the Sikh, and if he got by me, he might still reach safety. As he raced past, I thrust my firelock between his legs. The little man rode over like a shot rabbit. The Sikh was upon him in a flash and buried his knife twice in his side. The man never moaned or moved a muscle, but lay where he'd fallen. You see, gentlemen, I'm keeping my promise. I'm telling you every word exactly as it happened.
Horrible story.
On my word.
Savages.
Oh,
Savages.
yes, it was all very bad, no doubt. But it was my life or his. If he'd got out, the old business would have come to light, and I should have been court-martialed and shot as likely as not. People were not very lenient at a time like that.
Go on with your story.
Well, we disposed of his body in a crumbling part of the fort. And then we opened this iron box that's now standing empty on your table and looked at the treasure. Oh, it was blinded to look on. We took it out and counted it. There was 143 diamonds of the first water, 97 emeralds, 170 rubies, 210 sapphires, and a quantity of beryls, onyxes, cat's eyes, and other stones I didn't even know the name of at the time. Oh, and 12 very fine pearls set in a gold chaplet. They'd been taken out of the chest when I recovered it.
Yes, we know about them. Mr. Sholto has been sending them 1 a year to Miss Morstan. At least something of the treasure escaped you, Mr. Small. But continue, please.
Well, then we renewed our oath, hid the treasure in the fort, and I drew 4 plans, 1 for each of us. Then the mutiny ended. We was just thinking we could go off with the plunder when we was all arrested for the murder of Ahmed, whose body had been found.
But not the jewel.
I know. And not a word about him came out of the trial. You see, in the meantime, the Raja had been deposed and driven out of India, so no one had any particular interest in him. The murder, however, was clearly made out, and it was certain that all 4 of us must have been involved. The 3 Sikhs got penal servitude for life. I was condemned to death. They commuted it to the same as the others.
So there you were, with the treasure safely hidden, but all 4 tied by the leg.
That's how it was, sir. It's enough to make a man eat his heart out. So I just held on and bided my time. And then I had a stroke of luck. We was transferred to Blair Island in the Andamans.
What was so lucky about that? I always thought it was a terrible hole.
Yes, it's certainly that, sir. But there was very few white convicts, and I soon got privileges. One of them was to dispense drugs for the surgeon, Dr. Somerton. He was a fast, sporting sort of chap, and the other young officers would meet in his rooms of an evening and play cards. There was Major Sholto and Captain Morstan.
Now it begins to fit.
There was also 2 or 3 prison officials, crafty old ants. When I was in the surgery, I sometimes used to turn out the lights so that I could listen to their talk and watch their play. One thing very soon struck me, which was that the soldiers always used to lose and the civilians used to win.
How very unfortunate for the soldiers.
Yes, it was indeed, sir. Major Sholto was so hard hit that he came to signing notes for big sums. One night, when he'd lost more heavily than usual, I heard him and Captain Morstan talking as they went by my window.
It's all up, Morstan. I shall have to hand in my papers. I'm a ruined man.
Nonsense, old chap. I've had a nasty face on myself. But just keep playing. The luck can't run against us forever.
No, I suppose not.
Well, that was all I could hear. But it was enough to set me thinking. Then, a couple of days later, Major Sholto was strolling on the beach, and I took the chance of speaking to him.
Well, Small, what is it?
I wanted to ask you, sir, who's the proper person to hand over hidden treasure to?
Huh?
I know where there's $500,000.
$500,000, Small?
Yes, quite that, sir, in jewels and pearls. The queer thing is, the owner's outlawed, so it belongs to the first comer.
Well, it must go to government, Small, to government.
Then you think, sir, I ought to give the information to the Governor-General?
Well, you mustn't do anything rash. Let me hear about it, Small. Give me the facts.
I told him the old story, with little changes so that he couldn't identify places. Then 2 nights later, he and his friend, Captain Morstan, came to my hut in the dead of night with a lantern.
Now, look here, Small. I've been talking this matter over with the captain here, and we feel that perhaps it is hardly a government matter after all. In fact, we might be inclined to take it up ourselves if we could agree on terms. Isn't that so, Morstan?
Yes, certainly. The point is, Small, what price would you ask for your secret?
The price would be my freedom and that of my 3 companions. Then we could take you into partnership and give you a 5th share between you.
A 5th? That's not very tempting.
It'd come to 50,000 apiece.
But how can we gain your freedom? You know that's quite impossible.
No, nothing of the sort, sir. I've thought it all out. You've only got to bring a yacht over from Calcutta or Madras. We'll get aboard her by night, and you can drop us in any part of the Indian Ocean you please.
It's a dirty business. But, as you say, Sholto, the money will save our commissions handsomely.
Well, Small, I suppose we must try to meet you. First, of course, we must test your story. Tell me where the box is hidden, and I'll get a month's leave of absence and go and locate it.
No, not so fast. I must have the consent of my 3 comrades.
Oh, nonsense. Those 3 fellows needn't come into it.
It's none or all. We've sworn to act together.
Oh, very well. Then bring them all to us, and we'll come to an arrangement.
Well, gentlemen, I know my friend Mr. Jones is impatient to get me safely stowed in Chokey, so I'll make the rest of my story as short as I can. The villain Sholto went off to India and never came back again. He went on to England, taking the treasure with him.
How did you know that?
Captain Morstan saw his name in a mailboat's passenger list, and then went over to Agra himself and found the treasure gone. From that moment, I lived only for vengeance. To track down Sholto and to have my hands on his throat was my one thought. But it was many years before my time came.
How did you make your escape eventually?
That was through Tonga, the little Andaman islander. He'd been picked up ill by a convict gang in the woods. I nursed the little fellow back to health. He took a kind of fancy to me. He owned a big, roomy canoe of his own and was a fine boatman. When I saw he'd do anything for me, I talked him into our making a run for it together.
Were there no guards to stop you?
We set off at night from an old, disused wharf. Only one guard stood in our way. I crept up to him from behind, unstrapped my wooden leg, and struck him down before he could put carbine to shoulder.
Good heavens alive.
He was at sea for 10 days. Then we was picked up by a trader going from Singapore to Jeddah with a cargo of Malay pilgrims. course, they was a rum crowd. They let us alone and asked no questions. Took us many years to get to England.
But how did you live?
By exhibiting tonga in fairs and circuses all over the world. Then, at long last, we arrived in London. It didn't take me long to find out where Major Sholto lived. I made friends with someone in the house who could help me.
Who was that, pray?
I name no names, Mr. Holmes.
Oh.
I don't want to get anybody else into an hole. Well, then I got word he was dying and hurried to the house, mad that he should slip out of my clutches. His jaw dropped when he saw me looking in at the window, and I knew he was a goner. I got into his room that night, though, and searched everywhere for some sign of the treasure. I left the sign of 4 as a mark of our hatred.
And the same informant told you when the treasure had been found?
Yes. And by that time, I knew the layout of the house as well. So I brought Tonga along with a long rope coiled round his waist. And he climbed in and killed Mr. Bartholomew before I could stop him. Well, that's the truth, gentlemen. And I've told it to let you know how badly I've been served by Major Sholto. I'd have swung for him with a light heart. But I swear to you, I'm innocent of the death of his son.
Very remarkable account. A fitting wind-up to an extremely interesting case.
I quite agree.
One point. I had hoped that Tonga had lost all his darts, but he managed to shoot one at us in the boat.
He had lost them all, sir. Except the one that was in his blowpipe at the time.
Of course, I hadn't thought of that.
Anything else you'd like to ask about, sir?
I think not, thank you.
Well, Holmes, we all know you're a connoisseur of crime, but duty's duty, and I'll feel more at ease when we have our storyteller here under lock and key.
Very well.
I'm much obliged to you both for your assistance, and of course, you'll both be wanted at the trial. Good night to you.
Good night. Good night, Inspector.
Good night, gentlemen, both. After you, sir.
No, you first, Small. I'll take particular care you don't club me with your wooden leg, whatever you may have done to that gentleman in the Andaman Isles.
Well, there's the end of our little drama. I fear, my dear fellow, it may be the last investigation in which I shall have the chance of studying your methods.
Oh?
Yes, and Miss Morstan has done me the honor to accept me as a husband in prospective.
Oh, I feared as much. I really cannot congratulate you.
Have you any reason to be dissatisfied with my choice?
Not at all. I think she's one of the most charming young ladies I ever met.
Thank you.
She might have been most useful in work such as we have been doing. She had a decided genius that way. Witness the way she preserved the Agra plan from all the other papers of her father.
Quite.
But love is an emotional thing, and whatever is emotional is opposed to that true, cold reason which I place above all things. I should never marry myself lest I bias my judgment.
I trust my judgment may survive the ordeal. But, you look weary.
Yes. The reaction's upon me already. I shall be as limp as a rag for a week.
Strange how terms of what in another man I should call laziness alternate with your fits of splendid energy and vigor.
Yes. There are the makings in me of a very fine loafer and also of a pretty spry sort of fellow. Oh, by the way, apropos of this Norwood business, you noticed that they had, as I surmised, a confederate in the house.
Yes, he admitted that, even if he wouldn't identify him.
It could be none other than Lao Rao, the Indian servant. So Jones actually had the undivided honor of having caught one fish in his great haul.
The division seems rather unfair. You've done all the work in this business. I get a wife out of it. Jones gets the credit. What remains for you?
For me, there is always my violin. Pass it over to me. There's a good fellow. Thank you.
That ends The Sign of 4 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The part of Sherlock Holmes was played by Richard Hurndall, Dr. Watson by Brian Coleman, Athelney Jones by Hayden Jones, and Jonathan Small by Lee Crutchley. The story was adapted for broadcasting by Felix Felton and produced for the BBC by Archie Campbell.